Okay, thank y'all for coming. If you would, please, like I said, take your phones and cut them off or put them on vibrate. Would please stand. We'll have the Pledge of Allegiance, and then I'll let you be seated for a devotion and a prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
and the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with justice.
You may be seated. I hope all of you had a great Easter as we celebrated our Savior's death and resurrection so that we have new life. Just wanted to read from Luke 23, verse 32. I'm going to start there. Two other men, both criminals, were also led out with him to be executed. When they came to the place called the Skull, they crucified him there along with the criminals, one on his right, the other on his left. Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." And they divided up his clothes by casting lots. The people stood watching, and the rulers even sneered at him. They said, "He saved others. Let him save himself if he is God's Messiah, the chosen one." The soldiers also came up and mocked him. They offered him wine vinegar and said, "If you're the king of the Jews, save yourself." There was a written notice above him which read, "This is the King of the Jews." One of the criminals who hung there hurled insults at him. "Aren't you the Messiah? Save yourself and save us." But the other criminal rebuked him. "Don't you fear God," he said, "since you are under the same sentence? We are punished justly, for we are getting what our deeds deserve. But this man has done nothing wrong." Then he said to Jesus, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." Jesus answered him, "Truly, I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." Now that's just a simple way that you can become a Christian. You first, as the criminal did that was hanging on the cross, he knew he was a sinner because he was like the other one. He had done things that he shouldn't have done, and he was paying his punishment. And then he knew that Jesus Christ was sinless because he said, he had done nothing wrong. And so then he calls on Jesus to stop him, and Jesus does. And the amazing thing is, Jesus says, "Today you will be with me in paradise." So, the only person in the Bible that is told that they will be with Jesus that day in paradise was a criminal on the cross who never went to church, who never did a good thing. And he was saved by a simple faith in believing that Jesus was his Savior. So at this time, let's pray, and then we'll get with the meeting. Our Father and God, we thank you so much for this day. We thank you, Father, for Easter and just the hope that we have. And that it is such a simple faith that we need as a child, that we could trust in you as our Savior, and we would have salvation, and we would be with you in paradise. I pray, Father, you'll be with us during this meeting. I pray for our county. I pray that you just guide each person here in this county, give them a hope, and that there's a life after this. Lord, I pray that you'll, again, just guide us through this meeting, and we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. The first thing we have is a public hearing, and this is our second road abandonment hearing. It's on Peanut Road. It's the last part of it. I asked the county manager to mention a few things first, and then we'll see who's here for the public hearing.
Yes, sir. So the abandonment of Peanut Road starts at Terry Shaddix's property pin and goes to the cul-de-sac. So that's why we've got it listed as a partial road abandonment. So it's just partial part of the road.
Okay. If anybody's here to speak on that issue, would you please come to the mic? Okay, I see no one moving. So at this time, we will close out the public hearing, and we'll go on with the regular meeting. We have no elected officials or department heads here that I can tell, so we'll move to the approval of the minutes. We have the minutes of the March 16th, 2026 meeting. Do we have any additions, corrections, deletions for those minutes?
Move to approve.
Have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, it's unanimous. We'll go to old business, the defects board appointment. Do you have any new applications?
I do not have any new applications at this time, and of course, it's on the agenda to keep it as a consecutive. So,
Right, until you get
Correct.
one that's approved by them. Okay, we'll move to new business. We have the approval of the accounts payable. There's a list on your tablet. If you'll take a minute and look over it. If you have a question, I'm sure the county manager can answer it or can get you an answer this week. Do you have any questions on the approval, the accounts payable list? Okay, we have a motion to approve the accounts payable. Do I have a second? Have several seconds. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, it's unanimous. We'll go to the 2026 LRA, the road committee report.
yes, sir. So in your package, you will find that the LRA has been extended into this fiscal year. Dodge County has been appropriated $1,184,273.47. That being said, we do have a list of roads that we're not able to make 26 LMIG. So what I would like to do is schedule a date for the road committee to meet quickly, because I do have to send that list, the finalized list, to the road engineer to get estimated and then bring it back in front of the full board. So if the committee could give me a date,
Okay.
this week or next week would be fine with me.
You know, have maybe a date y'all can look at and give it to him while we're here.
Thursday, 4 o'clock.
Is that okay?
Yes.
April 9th,
Okay.
4 p.m.
All right, we've got that taken care of. We'll move down to the 2026 LMIG bid approval.
Okay, we only received one bid for the 2026 LMIG, and that was from Scruggs in the amount of $1,012,347.18.
Okay, what's the board's pleasure?
What project is that?
2026 LMIG.
What's the project? Actual, the road.
Well, I do not have which roads are included in there. No. Eastern Island.
No,
CTIB.
that's a.
We approved roads in
I
January.
just couldn't remember.
Yeah, I
I
can get
thought
that
you
list.
might
to
have
you.
had the list and I was overlooking.
No, sir. But I can get that list to you.
But we already approved the roads. in
And
January.
it's on our website here. You can go to the website, get public information and approve roads.
I'm sure it's on here. How did, the estimate was a little more than that? Is that, am I looking at that right?
So our grant was in the amount of $1,098,334. So the bid was actually lower than the grant amount. But typically,
We have to match that 10%.
10%. Correct. So that's why you see at the very bottom, the grant plus our match would be $1,208,167.60. So the bid did come in $195,820.42 less than what we would have to pay.
So if we go ahead and accept this, are we able to then have a small project we could use the rest of that grant on with our match, or is it this is?
Yes, you can always add a little bit to that. Yes.
Okay.
So yes. So Powers Road, Albert Lampkin Road, Bedsole, Tangerine, Orange, Garrett Oxley, Bill Hambrick, and Sparrow Lane, and then MLK are the roads that are on that project.
Okay,
Move to approve.
got a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have several seconds. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, it's unanimous. We'll go to the hospital authority board appointments advertisements. So
Yes, sir. So the hospital appointments do expire.
3 of them.
3 of them do expire this year. I want to say June 30th. So I'm just announcing that we will start advertising for those. I have received the applications of the current serving members. The hospital did send those over last week.
okay. All right, we'll move to Mr. Derek Hutchinson that's here to speak on so.
Thank y'all for your time. I'm gonna pass these out.
You say something?
I just the Zoom, so. No, I don't know. Thanks. So, I went to Miss Leanne Green's event she had. It was very good. She what was that 2 weeks ago, last week, the town hall, very neat. So, and I got to talk to some of the commissioners about this at that meeting. So I'm gonna kind of bring this up. So, hey, I'm all for solar. I just came back from economic development training for like 2 days. They spent a lot of time on solar, spent a lot of time on data centers. They spent a lot of time, didn't hear anything on the batteries, but we heard the reasons why we need them. You know, and they don't really tax our infrastructure. You know, it doesn't require schools. You know, a lot of tax revenue comes into the county. So I get it. I mean, I really do. So they're coming all around us. It's a sign of the times. Whether you like it or not, that's where we're at. So your Dodge County is going to take advantage of some of that. And it can reduce our tax liability for the citizens. What I'm here is just to discuss where we're going to put the solar. Solar's coming. Data may be coming. I don't know. I mean, I really don't. Batteries may be coming, possibly. I don't think Dodge County is going to be able to stop all advancement, and I don't think we need to. So what I'm trying to do is, can we just, and unfortunately, I was late to the game on getting whenever y'all made this solar ordinance. So I'm proposing just to amend the ordinance. And there's a large project that's planned out on Old Mogi Church Road, and it's going to run right through Gum Swamp Creek. It's still out there spinning around. It's not dead. I don't know. Do you know any more, Connor, if it's moving forward? I haven't. So Connor, neither one of us can get a lot of traction as far as Georgia Power. You know, we've been trying to do some meets. We've been trying to do a phone interview, trying to do Zoom on the ground. We know they got it under contract, had it under contract for 2.5 or 3 years. They are proposing a very large solar project there. What I want to see is if we can tighten up where we're going to put the solar, such as like bullet point number 1, no development in floodplains or in the wetlands area. So I don't think that's a big ask. To me, it's common sense. But the Southern Company said, hey, we are the Southern Company. So we'll put solar where we think we need to put solar. So I don't think we should allow an EPD variance. You know, I know they can go abate those wetlands and go to another county over, but they shouldn't impact our county. So, I mean, if you want to put solar in our wetlands, I don't think we should allow it. We shouldn't even allow an abatement. I think that's just common sense. But there is a plan out there where they can abate those wetlands and go to Telfair, as long as they stay in our EPD district. And I'm not sure how that works through the Army Corps, but I know in our zone, if they impact our wetlands, they can go to another county and save some wetlands, but it still would impact Dodge County. That was number 1, just don't put them into floodplains or the wetlands. Number 2 was enhance this buffer. And I know I've heard the talk about the buffers of 150 feet and 150 feet. And I know we're saying, hey, that's impacting what somebody can do with their land. But I'm proposing the 600 feet because the uplands, you know, so this particular track, you know, it flows down to the creek. It flows to the swamp. That's what it does. Well, if you just stop at the wetlands, you're still on a pretty good slope. They're going to bring in sheep, and that's how they're going to cut the grass. Well, sheep are going to defecate, and when they do, all that's going to run right there into the swamp. So that's why I'm proposing if we make that buffer wider and larger to protect those wetlands, it also protects what's downhill of that as well. The third one is if we could, as Dodge County, adopt the Georgia low impact siting model. I gave y'all one of those about a month ago. It shows everywhere in Georgia where the green, it says, hey, put solar here. It's a great spot to put it. And then they got red that says, don't put solar here. Then they got yellow that says, if you have to put solar here, if there's nowhere else to put it. A lot of area in Dodge County is in this green on that map. If we could just, as a county, adopt some kind of, I'm not saying zoning, some kind of land use that says, hey, this is where we want to put these. Because this is where, you know, the study was done by by Georgia Power, the Southern Company. It was done by the Army Corps. It was done by EPD. There's about 6 organizations, the Orion Society, about 6 organizations put that together. In the state of Georgia, probably 2/3 of the state's in green, just not next to a swamp or a wetland area. I'm gonna flip the page. And the other one was if we could amend it and include independent environmental impact study, because the DNR does the study, but they're gonna get a variance from DNR and Public Service Commission, and they're gonna get the variance from EPD. I just think you need to have some independent person do the study, and if we can include it and have them pay it in their application process, not just rely on the state and the federal, but they're the ones who can give the variance to impact your wetlands. So the very people that we're saying could give the variance, we're letting them do the study. I don't know, it just doesn't really seem like that's an arm's length transaction to me as far as doing an impact study for the environment. And then I'm gonna go to the last one, and I was just wondering this, and I didn't know on the number 9 enforcement and accountability. I didn't know what our requirement was as far. Well, I know what our requirements are in our ordinance, but what is the penalty? Is it per day? Is it per occurrence?
It could be per day until the occurrence is corrected.
Okay, you know what it is?
$1,000.
Okay,
That's the maximum the state allows for a misdemeanor.
I got you. Any questions? My main ask is, can we increase the buffer with wetlands and floodplain and just keep them out of there completely in the buffer with the land, the joint? That's,
All right, anybody got a question?
I do.
Yes.
Okay, on number 1, Ron, where it says, where it's talking about development, floodplains and wetlands. And he says here, these protections should not be bypassed through exceptions or from like EPD, from state and federal level. What can we do? I mean, how can we overcome that?
Off the cuff, I think my thought is that federal and state regulations would preempt anything that y'all pass. So I don't know that you can say that. I mean, you have home rule. The home rule has limits to how far it stretches, and you have both pre-existing state and federal regulations that govern that. I mean, because I think it's not just EPD, I think it's EPA as well. For the issues we've had out at the airport during expansion, things like that, it's always been an EPA and an EPD, not just one or the other. And so I think anything that we did this, I mean, you could partly say it, but it's not going to stand up.
In addition, the Army Corps of Engineers is who determines where wetlands and navigable waterways are.
That was my next question.
So I don't know that we can tell them what to do on that.
Have you run across anything during your research?
I have not, but why couldn't we put that you can't put a solar panel in the floodplain or the wetland area?
Well, what I'm saying is you've got to have something that's self-contained. We can't rely on independent third party because this board cannot give its authority away. They can do it restrictive, but it's got to be self-contained.
We couldn't say that if, we can't say that if you get an exception or a variance or an opportunity to abate a wetland or anything like that, that we're going to put a clause in there that says you can't do that if that, because one, we don't know, right? I mean, we don't keep a track of wetlands in the county and things of that nature. We don't have an independent arm of the county that says, this is the Dodge County Environmental Enforcement Division of the Sheriff's Department. So one, we don't have a tracking of that. We already rely on EPD and Army Corps of Engineers and EPA to tell us those things. But beyond that, you have the problem of the state and federal laws and preempting anything you say. And so the argument would be, if we said that, they would come into court and we would have to argue against it, and they would say very quickly, well, this ordinance is preempted by state law, and they would win and we would lose. And that's as far as it would go.
Which is why number 5, we had an independent environmental impact study that they would have to delineate out the wetlands and show you what is wetlands, what is the floodplain. So if we don't have the police as far as to do that, they would be required to do that if we could put it in our application. At least we'd have the information. I get what you're saying about if they give a variance. I get what you're saying.
Now, you can absolutely require a third party to do an independent environmental impact study. My concern with that from a practical standpoint is yes, they can go get a third party one, but I suspect they most likely already have one done to go to EPA, EPD to say, here's what our expert says. And so I don't know, I mean, I don't think that's a very cumbersome ask of them, but I don't know what you ultimately achieve.
The current, the study they have is performed by DNR, which is not independent. It's still another government agency. in my
Sure, but
opinion.
I suspect though, before they get to that point, when they're just in the exploratory phase, they most likely pull land and have somebody do some sort of report before they go start investing money. You know, that's sort of one of those upfront things that you do. You would get somebody that's an expert, not a government agency, to do. And yeah, I don't know how much more of an ask it is to ask them. I don't think it's a problem asking them to provide one at all. I just don't know. I don't know how much utility it's going to be, because I think ultimately, if it is truly a third party that's doing an environmental impact study, well then, if I'm company A and I want to go get an environmental impact study that says there's no environmental impact other than what's noted by a DNR, I guarantee you I can find somebody who will sign off on that. And I will just keep
But if
going
we-
through them until I find the one that says what I want them to say.
But if we put an application process, the county could mutually have to agree to that same environmental study versus just getting a hired gun. I get what you're saying. If I got enough money, I can get anybody to write whatever I want.
I don't know how having that clause will never prevent that from happening, but
Without the clause, we're not preventing anything.
sure.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
So I'm not familiar with the Southern Company, but this is, I think, the third time there's been comment about them. Are they not required to follow Georgia code? They're not?
They are, but I think they do what they want from what we,
He told me out of his mouth, we're the Southern Company. We are the Southern Company.
right.
He said, we're as powerful as the federal government.
It's easy to walk around with that.
They're pretty large, multi-billion-dollar company. And
Are
they're
they not required? to
How large are
follow
they?
They are.
They're pretty
They are,
large.
okay.
Forced in federal law.
Ron, just make sure I understand. I think, if I understand this correctly, it is already against regulations, EPD and EPA, to put these in wetlands or impacted areas. That's already the case.
Yes.
The only question we have is if they can get a variance on that to mitigate some of these wetlands.
Right. That's actually
So,
the
and-
term that's used as mitigation.
And so I think I pretty well agree with you that there's no way we can say that they can apply for something that is legal to apply for at the state or federal level. So it is already a case that it's against the law to put them in wetland. And the only other thing that I would see, just from being a farmer, if I found somebody that would change the wetland map on my farm and I brought it to the EPD and said, look, I've got a better study, and what they would look at me and say, well, I don't care what your study says, mine's the one that matters. And that's the only thing I'm seeing here is we're almost saying that if we had the rights to ask the right person, we could get these wetlands enlarged or more protected when the gold standard is EPA and EPD, and whatever they say is ultimately what's going to happen. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, they're absolutely the decider, and that's,
No matter how many studies we had, if it didn't match theirs, it wouldn't matter.
yeah, I mean, you get disputes with those agencies, but ultimately they're the arbiter, right? I mean, they're the ones who make the findings and they make the decisions, and that is subject to reviewability, at appropriate levels, but they're the initial decider. That, they have desk level review, and then they have an appeal process from there. And then once they make a final decision, they have another process in which you can appeal it. And they're no longer entitled to Chevron deference, which is what we call it, which is where their agency interpretations are afforded basically the same effect as law. But it's still pretty persuasive, right? I mean, they're the ones who review it. They're the ones who are the experts. So, yes.
And then the other thing I would ask is, do we not have that area identified in the comp plan as not to be developed? You have to identify certain things in the comp plan, and our comp plan is really focused on natural environments and farming and those kinds of things, and this is kind of flying against it.
Well, I think it talks about land use, but I mean, I don't think that's a binding document by
But
any means.
that is used by DCA in certain cases, and you could actually possibly bring something like this, and get them.
You're also dealing with personal property rights.
Yeah,
Again,
You just,
I don't know that, yeah, it is used by them to make sure you have for certain grants, but not as some type of, penal.
right, no, I'm not suggesting that, but that is DCA is a government agency as well. Okay, and if you have the code, I'm just asking, if you have the code and you have our comp plan, which is a recognized document for various things that allows the local government to do or not do. And it's defining what our existence is about in this county as far as the land goes. I think,
I don't know that would be arguable in court as a legal document, as far as stopping certain types of development and moving forward with others, as far as like keeping it agriculture or something of that nature.
I mean, one of the things with DCA is, it's just the state of Georgia. I mean, like you're talking about with the EPA, you're dealing with the federal government.
I
I mean,
understand,
they have jurisdiction there. The DCA doesn't matter to me.
I understand. So, I mean, I can,
So what's your question?
this is something that, if it makes sense, I'm on the national committee for this kind of thing, and I'm on the state one for it. For policy, for
Yes.
establishing policy.
Unless the federal government changes
That's what I'm suggesting.
some policy. Well, that's something you can take up with them.
Yeah, I'm just suggesting.
But it's not helping our situation right this minute, because that's what we're trying to deal with right now, is figuring out a way to increase. I know probably 3 or 4 years ago, I guess it was the federal soil conservation. They rechanged all the wetland maps in Dodge County, and we went from very little to a lot. So, I mean, unless we could come up with some solution to that by adding, like he has in here on number 2, some kind of buffer added to the wetland that's already there, I don't know that we can do anything right offhand, but that's something we need to look at, is my opinion.
And I'm not sure,
Great idea.
I'm not sure what, I mean, the EPA also has a buffer too on wetlands. I'm not sure what that is, but I know they have guidelines for buffers too.
But the soil conservation did that one, right? Or,
Correct.
I
Yeah,
assume the federal government.
That's what creates the map.
yeah, and the Army Corps of Engineers has a set of buffers and things of that nature when it comes to how far you can put something there.
There's a soil map of the whole county.
Yeah, but I mean, if you remember this, the wetland area for Dodge County used to be a small footprint. I'm talking 3 or 5 years ago, for ever since they've had them, until 3 or 5 years ago, and then they blew it out of the water. I mean, it's like, just floored me, the amount of wetlands they created or said they created. So,
Well, that is an interesting point, though. And to Commissioner Flanagan's point, those, so like the DCA comp map in those wetland maps, those are not fixed things, right? They change with time. So the DCA comp map this is what the character of development is currently in the county. And it says in there that it is subject to change, because it's like zoning. Zoning is not supposed to stay the same throughout. Like it is designed so that it can react to the current trends. Wetlands and agricultural use is also the same thing. We just had a major change to the watershed all over Georgia with Helene. What wetlands look like in 10 years from today versus what they looked like 3 years ago are not going to be the same thing. That is something that evolves with time, development of parts. You literally have things that happen in one part of the county that you may not think has any impact on the other end of the county, but it may have an impact to a wetland on the other end. So, you have migration patterns, you have all those things. And so that's why those maps change. And they're not good predictors of the future necessarily,
Right.
but they're good predictors of where we are currently.
Just for me, I'd love to see that particular area, the wetland map that the federal government did. That'd be something interesting to see, so that
I looked at the site map of it, but I don't think anybody's seen that. Did I know?
So he had it in his hand, but, he wouldn't let, I said, can I take a picture of that? He said, no, I better not. He was kind of holding it. And I said, man, if you hold it more still, I could probably get a picture. He said, no, we better not. And he put it in his pocket. He said, but you can go to the CARES site. And he said, or the Public Service Commission, it's public record. It is not on there. I'm telling you. It's not. It's been identified on the Adopt the Georgia Low Income Siting Model. So it's on there. It shows that footprint of this property being studied by the Public Service Commission and by Southern Company, but it is, you cannot find the plan.
Yeah. Everyone I've seen, avoids wetland at all costs, whatever shape it has to be to avoid it. And I would assume this one would be the same, but I have not seen it. So.
As I said, I'm a novice to this, so I really don't know. It's the first one I've ever even looked at. I just know he told me, he said, we're gonna put solar on that whole property. I said, I don't think you can. I said, you can't put it in wetlands and down in the swamp. He said, we're gonna use all the property. He was pretty arrogant. I mean,
quick question, and then I'll let you, but you said that is the plan, the plat or whatever, the drawing of this property on this, Georgia low impact?
it is, so I can
So
show
you
you
could
that too.
find the plat, at least see the property lines that they're gonna put it on that site.
Well, no, it does not show where they're gonna put the actual panels inside of that.
But it does show the property line.
Shows the property inside of Dodge County.
Okay.
So this is,
That's when-
I'll fix it. I
Yeah,
gave you all that
that's what we
last,
had.
so all that green
Right.
is where they can put solar, and that's
Okay.
most of the state.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why you pick out this one spot. I get it's a large tract. It's 2,200 acres from the Wingate Estate. I get it. They're hunting a large tract, but there's a lot better places you could put solar. And there's some high ground on this tract. I mean, I know the solar's coming somewhere on this tract. I'm just trying to keep it out of the environmentally sensitive areas.
Right,
That's all.
right.
That's my whole ask.
Sure. Okay. All right, well, thank you. Mr. Larry Johnson wants to make a comment.
Yeah, I've seen the plan. I know what this, I've seen the drawing. I know what's going on out there. It's not gonna be the whole place.
Okay.
It's gonna be patches. It's like the one up there. Him. They will not issue it to you.
Okay.
But as far as the Southern Company, if they wanna do it, I was at a meeting 2 weeks ago. with some Southern Company officials. It's still EPA is giving them a fit because of Gulf Swamp.
Okay.
And that he would not tell me yes, no, maybe, or not. We still got options.
Okay.
Not to ask no more
So
questions.
the best thing would be to call the EPA.
Yeah, he
Okay.
told- the guy told me, sit down and don't ask no more questions, so I went.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Larry.
That makes me feel a little better. It sounds like they are doing their job, which is to protect the environment in these wetlands. And that's what we've been counting on when we did this ordinance, because we knew we didn't have the authority for that, but we had left that authority at the state and federal level that's supposed to be doing. So we can.
Thank you again, Mr. Derrick. We appreciate it. Thank you for coming. We'll keep working on this, but we have a splosh request, the road department.
Yes, sir. So, Superintendent Richard Harrell has put in a request for a new service truck. Their, most recent one did, break down on us. We were looking somewhere around $20,000 for repair, up to 7.3, but we did sell it at the auction. And Richard has found a 2007 F-350 quad cab with a tool body on it. He wants to make it his fuel truck along with the air compressor on the back of it. He asked for a quad cab so they can also drop people off at their equipment while they're fueling it up, decreasing the amount of vehicles we're having to put out there on the road. It does have a new motor and transmission. I did inquire on the current miles, but I have not heard back on the current miles. But
New motor and
New motor
transmission,
and transmission.
is this forward track motor or this, what do we know? What engine is this?
6.0. So this is a bulletproof. I did ask Richard if it was a bulletproof engine, and it is a bulletproof engine. So it does have the beefier head studs on it.
Just
Now,
new motor and transmission with 0 miles.
0 miles, 0, but not used. It is
Somebody
new.
blew it up and traded it in.
That is correct. That is correct. Richard did go look at it and test drive, but he seemed to be satisfied.
Okay, what's the board's pleasure?
And they're asking $13,500 for this truck.
Can we get a motion?
How to get the motor fixed? The motor,
Probably been moved about 7,000.60.
Won't give it.
Did I understand correctly? This
Quick talk for 12 months.
where did this come from?
So I asked Richard that same question, you know, trying to get some detail from him. He has not responded to me as of yet, as far as where all that came from.
did I understand correctly? You said 0 miles on the engine?
0 miles on the engine and transmission.
So does it have like a warranty or
Yes,
something?
typically, I'm not, you know, this is just knowing what I know. It's typically 12 months, unlimited miles
On
on the motor and transmission.
Other
You
questions?
don't know where it's at, then?
No, sir, he just told me it was in Nashville, Georgia.
Nashville.
I tried to get a buyer's order, you know, some type of invoice or something, and this is what I've received, what you have in your packet.
How much is this cost for them?
Oh, he has the money available.
It's 13 even?
13.5.
13.5.
And the money would actually be coming from the auction.
We already had a motion, right?
Now we have no motion on the floor.
Move to,
Have a
He checked
motion?
it out. If it's new motor and transmission, that's not a bad price, but they'd have to give them a truck.
Okay, I got a motion on the floor. So we gotta have a second before we have discussion. Have a second. Do we have any discussion? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, it's unanimous. Well, did you vote?
Yeah.
All right, it's unanimous. We'll go down to the road abandonment on the Peanut Road, the partial. We've had the 2 hearings. Can we get a motion to approve? Have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, it's unanimous. We'll go down to the data center ordinance, the draft that was sent to you. Do we have any questions?
Base fee for the application, is that how we go?
Can't hear you.
The base fee on the application, it's got 150, can we go higher than that?
Absolutely can, and that's why I'm like highlight. So I'll run through these highlights with you too, but that's really whatever y'all want to set. The reason it's set like that, that is what is in these solar ordinance. So I highlighted that to determine what y'all wanted to do.
And so did we leave it as, I'm trying to find that here, the base fee and then it goes up per acre?
Correct, in the solar. I did not do that here because it was going to be, these things may not be a lot of acres. It may be,
Everyone I've seen is pretty large.
and it could be. Now, traditionally, when it comes to that, as far as the construction permits, you can do it by square foot. So it would just follow your normal course of commercial building code.
is there, for the fee, is there?
But now, this is just the application fee. So keep in mind, this is just for them to apply for us to look at to see if they have followed all the plans inside of the ordinance. So this is not necessarily a permit fee. This is just an application fee.
The thought behind the solar and tying it to per acre is if it's an acre site, it's not gonna take us long to look at it inside.
Correct.
If it's 100 acre site, it's gonna take a lot more legwork. And that's the reason I think it would be fair to tie it to acres more so than just one flat fee.
Yeah, and I was thinking, there's a difference between a data center, one building versus a campus, which could be 20 buildings.
Yeah.
And
a lot
so,
of them.
you know, you've got a lot of things.
Because even with these setback, one building won't be on a small.
Correct.
small-
It could be a 10-acre parcel that you have one building on, yes.
It needs to be substantially higher.
So do you
But
want
how
to
do
do
you
it
get
per
there?
acre?
Thing is-
Is what he's talking about.
Do you just put one base
Have
fee
a-
for the application, or do you?
This is for the application, but do you do it by the acre or what?
I don't think we're ready to adopt it now. Let's think
You're
about it.
right.
Yeah.
Let's think about
That's
that.
fine.
Make a good decision.
Okay. Moving to the next highlight, is when you get into building design. I highlighted because of one of the ordinance had, basically a facade. You know, you got to pick what kind of facade you want. Do we want to keep that in there or do we want to remove limitations on the facade?
It being that important that it have brick or architectural stone.
Did you say you don't think it's important?
I don't, how important is that? And it includes brick and or stone?
I think it's
If
important
we're-
is that it blend into the environment itself.
Well, but if we're tying it to our solar ordinance, we're already requiring 150-foot buffer vegetated that it can't be seen, and then we're gonna say it needs to be presentable if seen. So I think we need to do one or the other.
How tall are the solar panels from ground to the top of the solar panel?
Typically, depending on where they're tilted, they're probably 8 feet tall.
8 feet. Okay, how tall is this building?
Well, we have a limit on it of 70 feet.
So we need to make sure the structure of the outside is.
Gotcha. I believe what you're saying, man. I'll just kind of talk through
Okay,
I can leave it as is.
I think is that what everybody wants to do, leave that in there?
it. Material.
I think
And everybody's happy with what it says.
I think the only thing they seem to need to come up with right now is the, whether it's the acre or the flat fee.
All right, so
Actually, I have a comment about that, because it says at least 2 of those 3 bullets. And I'm just not sure.
What do you mean?
One of them is brick, stone, or architectural precast concrete panels, architectural metal panels with non-reflective finish, high-quality fiber cement panels. You got to have at least 2 of these in the building somewhere.
Which have the best R value as far as insulation?
I would be concerned
I
about.
think insulation's gonna be under that. Brick stone has 0 R value other than it cuts the wind. Same thing with metal panels. Fiber cement panels maybe do have some R value. We look at R value is under the facade, not on the outside.
Okay, what's your question? Sure.
Well, my question is, it's really tied to, because I know this was a copy from someone else's ordinance,
Right,
and I'm not familiar with the county, okay? So is there a lot of new development going on there where this came from, or a lot of not?
he said Coweta County. It's, no,
So I can
Newman.
understand
it's up where, there's one in Newman, Georgia.
if it's kind of a lot of new development going on, like that, I can understand these 3 bullets, and they would fit into that kind of environment. That's not us. You know, we do metal buildings and things like that. What I'm saying is,
I can change that to say
I-
one of the following.
I think that would be.
I think I-
sufficient.
Yeah, I
As
think
long
that would
as
be
it's-
fair. And we have the 150-foot vegetative buffer that, you know, maybe you can see some of it through there, but it's not gonna be a showpiece that you're trying to ride behind.
The buffers that are highlighted are the same that's found in the solar. The fencing, which is you want to fence around the property, will have a requirement of 8 feet in height. And then tell you what, same thing, it's got to be what it has to consist of. And it says if you're not using vegetative buffer, then it has to be vinyl coated. I'm sorry, if you are using, if the fence is within the buffer, vegetative buffer, then you can use chain link. If it's not, then it has to be the others. Of course, with the noise pieces in there is the same as the solar. Construction traffic plan is the same as the solar. Site lighting is the same as the solar. But we'll move down to the next highlight is cooling and ventilation. That is a little different than solar. It specifically asks that the applicant specify the proposed cooling and ventilation equipment as part of this application process, and then had in their open loop systems are prohibited for all liquid cooling and ventilation.
And we did that because they are the water wasters, is that right?
That is correct.
Okay.
The closed loop is.
Closed loop is the water conserving, that's right.
Correct. Substations, it says substations consider accessory use to data centers and shall not be located within 300 feet of the adjacent public road. Now, that's a little bit different than what we have in solar.
They have the same setbacks as solar itself. Is that,
That's correct.
so we're requiring an extra setback for substations.
Correct.
And what's the thought process behind that?
But potentially it could be larger based on power, but we've never done that to any other utility. So that was just already in
That
there.
was already in there.
So we can change that back to a normal buffer.
We might need to specify that the substation is actually going to be owned by the developments, the data center development, because we can't really tell substations where to go unless it's part of the unit.
Gotcha.
Because if it's state, then they have all kind of bypasses that way too. And that's where Southern Company gets a lot of power, as the state rents it.
What's y'all's thought? Was there any reason to have the substation have a different setback than the rest of the facility?
In my research, a lot of them are in the center of the developments. And so that's how they get around it, is they put the substations in the center of the developments, because they're required to produce so much of their own power. And all the campus ones that we've looked at, that are multiple buildings, like you said, 20 buildings. The substation, I mean, we could say that. We could say that it has to be in the center of the project. Unless it's owned by the Southern Company, then we have to say so it wouldn't matter. That's just a thought.
My other problem is getting in those weeds is we're not engineers and we don't know how that site is laid out, and will the way they're receiving electricity allow for it to be able to.
Well, they're buying enough property that they can manipulate it any way they need to.
Okay, other discussions? And this is not something, Sam, y'all are tabling this, I'm sorry.
No, that was,
Anything else?
that was it, but I didn't want to talk about, generator testing. Had to be done normal business hours, and it was prohibited on holidays.
Anything else? Okay, so the board, y'all want to table this until our next meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Would you mind, maybe printing a couple of these off
I will.
and then, we can mark it up. This one, we'll let it up like that. You got a good print.
Okay, so we'll get a motion to table.
So
Have a motion, have a second.
Second.
Several seconds, there's no discussion on the motion to table, so all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, it's unanimous. We'll go to the Facilities Authority meeting.
Okay, so what I'm asking for here is to call a meeting of the Facilities Authority, kind of, I guess, of a joint meeting. Because we've appointed these people to this authority, but yet we have not kind of gone over what the expectations are, what they're enacting legislation with those members. And I think we're to a point where we need to actually get them started to begin funding. Speaking with Davenport about funding the courthouse project or judicial annex project.
since our funding model is a little different than bonds, we're told we're below that threshold now. Is it still necessary that we use that authority?
It may not be.
However, if I may, Brian, it's not a bad idea to get it geared up in case we do need it.
Understood. I just knew our funding had changed from what we initially thought we could use. So I was not opposed to it. I was just asking that question. Yeah, that's roughly 15 million was that breaking point on whether bonds would be the right way or traditional loan would be more cost effective. So we're well below that now. So
I think it's a good idea to get them geared up.
and you said you would wanted to call a joint meeting between them and us?
Yes.
They come to our next.
Or we can thought the same thing.
Yeah, I'll be glad to have
All
that
right,
happen.
let's see if that happens where we can meet together at our next meeting. Okay, other questions on that? All right, before I go to commissioner reports, the county manager report and public comments, I want to mention that there is a 9-year-old young lady here who's waiting to go to her birthday dinner. So I'm asking that you keep it brief. Understand? It will start with Sherry Todd Flanagan.
The only thing I had to bring up, and I'll do it so that Connor doesn't have to repeat it, has to do with where things ended up regarding the tax exempt
Let's make it brief.
All tax exempted. So basically, we ended up back to kind of like being in the 581, with the ability to have an additional sales tax if we need to. And I think they're stepping through, and stepping in to get this done. But notice the burden of a lot of things is in the office of the tax commissioners.
Okay,
A
thank
lot
you.
of things that we do.
That's all. And you?
I don't have anything.
Anything? All right. At this time, we'll go to the county manager.
I want to start off with community events. I do want to remind everybody that the Art Guild is having their 4th annual Art Walk, April 14th at 6 p.m. And then with legislative update, I've only got one bill I want to talk about tonight. I'm still waiting to see what it all's passed. As everyone knows, Signing Day was last week. But House Bill 1116 and Senate Bill 382 have merged into Senate Bill 33, which threw a lot of people off because that was the bill about hemp. But no longer is that the case. It is now the Home Act. And what it does is kind of combine some of the pieces in both of these bills. So opting out of House Bill 581 from a few years ago is no longer an option. So everyone will be in that homestead exemption piece there. But it does allow for an L host to be levied. And for those that have a current FLOSS, which we do not, they can move it to what they call an L host, and that is a local homestead option sales tax. It does not increase the amount of sales tax that can be collected as far as the percentage, right? So limit for local governments is 5. It does have the rate of 1%. It does have to be voted on as far as a referendum, but it is good for 10 years. And I would love to tell you that we're going to get the full 1%, but that would be a lie because, of course, every state bill that has a sales tax in it, a piece of it does go to the state. So typically about 10% of the 1%. So we'll end up with 90% of a 1% sales tax.
Between cities.
Yes. So in order to be a qualified government, you do have to levy a tax and have a now you're going to have a homestead exemption. So how it's collected and dispersed is a little different. It goes into a trust account, and then upon when you send out your tax bills, it is distributed at that time. And so it's all in the bill. It's quite a
Mandatory formula, or do we have to negotiate it?
It's based on the value of the homestead exemption or ad valorem that are in your jurisdiction.
It's an
So there is no negotiation on the percentage.
interest bearing account too.
Yes. So again, up front, all the money has to go against your homestead ad valorem. If there's any left over, then it could go to other properties. Well,
Which was done, excuse me, Colin, which was done so that we decided that we want more than just the homesteads exempted or getting some tax relief. We could make the decision locally to do that with excess money.
So it basically, if there's excess from, if you get your homestead ad valorem to 0, you can use additional money like lost and roll back more village. So what's interesting to me is what this tax is actually on, because it's unlike any other sales tax. It's actually going to be on food ingredients, and motor fuels has a prepaid local tax if the fuel's under $3. That's yeah. So we may never see that again. I mean, it may not ever be on fuel.
I think it's up to $3.
Correct.
Taxing up to.
That's correct. And then also it's going to be on some services, which is strange because most of the time your sales tax is not on service, just on products. But if it is a monthly service, it'll be on a monthly service bill. Of course, being that it is, we will have to create a separate bank account. And how it's dispersed again is within 30 days from the tax mailings, the county will disperse the LHOS funds in the amount of the ad valorem tax within the jurisdiction. But also it clearly states in there that the tax assessors have to have that digest value on July 15th. So our attorneys will be busy doing a referendum for that, but it's really peculiar too because it changes on when tax referendums can be placed and which elections they can be placed on.
It also addressed the the schools and what they're doing.
Okay, all right, what else? Okay, we're moving on to public comments. Please keep it quick. We'll start over here in the front, office. You don't hear anything. Public. Start on the back. Come forward. Yes, sir.
Just want to make everybody aware out at the flight school on Friday at 2 p.m. We're going to bury a time capsule. We are celebrating our 10th years as a university. We're going to bury a capsule and open it 40 years from now. So if any of you are still here 40 years from now, you have an opportunity to see it. But if you want to put anything in it, tomorrow's the deadline. Just take it out to the flight school, to the front desk out there. It needs to be something small, like something you could hold in your hand. Just put a little description as to what it is. But if it's something related to the aviation school or whatever, you're welcome to drop something in there.
Okay.
All right.
Appreciate it. Next row. Front row. All right, can we get a motion to adjourn? Can I motion that second? Have several seconds. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, hearing none, unanimous, we now adjourn. Thank y'all for coming.